That's all, that covers all of what I just told you, which is a pretty fantastic story. And he says, look, these Israelites are getting so numerous, you know, they're increasing. We got to make their life worse than it is. I can't conceive that that was, well, people have slaves that are being useful. Why would they want to limit them? So again, this is the storyteller working here, and you can take or leave what you think is appropriate. That's up to you. But it's a good story. No one ever forgets it. And the sons of Israel then were feared by everyone, 9:13. And so I guess, does it say king or pharaoh in your book, 9:15, the king of Egypt? Say pharaoh of Egypt or king of Egypt? Yeah, well, it's probably the pharaoh. So, but mine says king too, but you could probably read pharaoh. I'm sure the pharaoh spoke to the Hebrew midwives. I'm sure that he had time for that. You know, again, I'm sorry to be cruel, but it's a good story. I like it, but still. And they know Shiphrah Puah. We know that you look after the Hebrew women. Watch for the, what's your Bible have? What are they looking out for there? The two what? I hate to tell you, but that's like, you know what I mean? What do you call them in polite language? Cojones? Testicles, I guess you should say. Look out for the testicles. You know, if they're there, kill them.
So where are you?
You got me, man. 16, 7. Let the women live. Usually they want the girls to die because they're the ones breeding. So again, all this makes no sense to me, but I'll let it go. I guess they're afraid of the men because I think they might fight. And then, of course, they don't do it. So the Pharaoh's talking to these midwives. That's hard to believe. Pharaoh, untouchable, you know, totally. He isn't even here. I mean, Pharaoh's down in Thebes, Karnak, 300 miles south, 400 miles south. And this is up northern. And I can't. What can I tell you? The Hebrew women are not like the Egyptian women. They give birth before we get there. Okay, that's a good story. So then Pharaoh is really angry. He says, okay, chuck them all in the river. Now, in Genesis, we didn't hear the Levites were so good, but by this time in Exodus, I guess the priest caste is basically Levites, and some of this may be priestly material. They're proud of being Levites. They're not interested in the story about how the Levites went through the city of, what city did they go through and put Jacob in a bad odor? Shechem? And what did they do? Because what had happened? That's it. The sister was raped. Dinah had been raped. Dinah. In any case, so there was a man of the tribe of Levi who had taken a woman of Levi as his wife. And she conceived and gave birth to a son. And they hid him in a basket, the famous story, which seems to reflect some of the material in some Osiris material that we know. And set him afloat. This is what Freud says, this is where the adoption of Moses into the Hebrew background comes into play. Or, if you like the straightforward way, we can just read the story as it is. And Pharaoh's daughter, now line 5, it is Pharaoh's daughter, is that right? In line 5, does it say Pharaoh? Must be a different word. So the writer knows Pharaoh from king, so it must be two text lines there. One is using king, one is using Pharaoh. I haven't looked at that before, but that's a good point. Pharaoh's daughter now sees him. But notice, the child's sister. Does the narrator know the child's sister's name? Not as far as we can tell. Does the narrator know the child's mother and father's name? Not as far as we can tell. He just knows they're Levites. The priestly genealogist is going to fill that in later. So this story writer originally, I don't think knows the name. We do, because we always put everything together. Maybe we conflate material. Maybe we shouldn't. But anyway, she finds him. She says, go find someone who can suckle this child. Of course, they don't get the child's real mother. And when the child grew up, she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, who treated him like a son, and she named him Moses because I drew him out of the water. There you are. Pharaoh's daughter names him Moses. Freud says, no, he was an Egyptian right from the start, an Egyptian noble of some kind, probably in the court of this innovating pharaoh, Akhenaten. And when his reforms collapsed, he was part of these reforms, and he somehow got a relationship with the Hebrews, and they want to Hebraicize him in these stories. I don't know which is the best. It's very hard to believe that a Hebrew would be brought up by a Pharaoh's daughter in her court in this manner. And later he's mistaken for an Egyptian all the time. And also later in the stories, if you notice, it says he's has uncircumcised lips. Well, that's part of another series of stories. He's of uncircumcised lips because he supposedly can't speak well. One thing, he doesn't seem to be able to speak to the Hebrews very well, but two then is he doesn't want to speak in front of Pharaoh. He needs his brother Aaron to come and do it for him. It's all very mixed up. And I don't have all, but Freud says the reason they say he can't speak well because he didn't speak Hebrew. He only spoke Egyptian anyway, which, in this story could be the case in any case. But all these things are problems, imperfectly remembered. Was there a leader like Moses? Oh, I think there was definitely a leader like Moses. The memory is so strong that there was somebody. I think there's more about Moses than Abraham, frankly. I mean, it's a stronger presentation. Moses is a stronger presentation in terms of data, detail, and everything else than Abraham. So if you want to argue about was there a Moses or was there an Abraham, I think you'd have to go for sure about Moses. Something happened like this. But what? I'll leave that to you to decide. I wouldn't even try to figure it out.